Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In the last episode, we created our weapon pickups and all of our weapon switching functionality seems to work. In this video, we are going to be back in the animation blueprint so that we can actually see it happen instead of it just computationally happening in the background. So let's go ahead and do that now. The first thing that we want to do is go to our player arm skeleton located in our character folder. And as I said before, we have this right weapon socket. Off of this socket, we want to right click and we want to add a socket. Okay, we hit F2 on here. We can give this a specific name. In this case, we're going to call this pistol socket. Let's right click again, add a socket, and we're going to add one for every single weapon. So auto rifle socket, so on and so forth. Add a socket, shotgun socket, and then I trust you. I believe you can do the final three, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, now that we have all of our sockets in place, first and foremost, in a perfect world, we would have an animator that would make animations that would perfectly hold every single one of our weapons, and then we could just slot those animations in. We do not have that luxury. This pack only comes with two. It technically has one for a launcher, but the launcher is not the correct launcher, and the rifle is not the correct rifle. So what we have to do, this the sort of workaround way of translating bones around and creating our own sockets. So that's why we're doing this. If you had a bunch of animations, you would not have to do this, just for the record. So what we want to do, if you remember, if in our BP player, in our spawn weapon, we attach our weapon to the player's arms based on the name of a certain socket. And by default, that is right weapon, which is this one. Well, we're going to be changing that up so it actually fits in the hand properly. So what we want to do is we want to go to our weapons, and in each weapon, we want to change the socket name to the one that we created. So auto rifle socket is what we want. Grenade launcher. Make sure it's spelled correctly, otherwise the game will hate you. It won't work. Pistol socket. Yeah, match them up with these and spell them correctly. As I said, unlike me, who's awful at spelling, apparently. All right, we're almost done. Just one more. All right, and then the base, just keep the same. That's that default one. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to change these values so that it actually fits correctly. Something that we can do is that I can show you, which is kind of cool. So under preview scene setting, preview controller, let's go to use specific animation, and we want to use a rifle idle. So, oh gosh, that is way too fast. You probably want it to be like 2 or 1 in here. So we have our pistol socket right there. Underneath our pistol socket, if you right click, you can add a preview asset, and we can actually add our pistol right there. And so you see right now, that's why we couldn't see our gun when we would interact with it in the last video. Like I said, it was pointed straight downward. So we need to make a few edits to this clearly. So going over to our details panel, if you don't see the details panel, just go to window, details, and it will show up. You'll see here's our name. The bone name is the right weapon. We want to change some of these settings. So I already did all this for you because I'm such a nice person. This should line up relatively well, but you can do it by hand by like moving it around and all of that. But the locations that I have are negative 0.71 for the X. The Y is 0.6. The Z is 9.3. The rotation is negative 90. The Y is 0. The Z is 0. And that'll look really nice. Now, what we will do in the animation blueprint is we will make this arm disappear, and we will move actually the fingers in a good location, but we might, for other weapons, we will be altering kind of where this other shoulder is and stuff. If you want to, you can right click on here and remove all attached assets, and now the pistol will disappear. But you can see now how the pistol socket's in a different location than the right weapon. So let's go ahead to the auto rifle, and we'll do that now. So, sorry, I'm just checking what the socket was on the other project. The relative location is -1.5. The Y is 1.5. The Z is 7.6. The rotation is -90. So if you wanted to see what this looked like, add preview asset, assault rifle. So there you go. Now he's actually like he's holding it. Ain't that a crazy thing? Let's do the shotgun next. Preview assets. I'm just doing this for fun now because I think it's cool. So see how that looks really stupid? You actually see it move around if I have the preview asset there. It's kind of cool. Relative location is -1.17. The Y is going to be 2.06. Some really specific numbers here. And then 10.2. And then -90. And there you go. There is that. And see the fingers clipping through here, so we will fix that in the animation blueprint, and the hand isn't quite up there enough. But we just want the socket. We mainly are focusing on, is it in this hand? The thumb and these fingers. Is that looking like it's in his palm? That's what we are mostly worried about right here, because that is the root. That's the attachment point that we're setting via those blueprints. Sniper rifle is next. There we go. Sheesh. Now for the sniper rifle, what do we got here? Sniper rifle is -0.53. The Y is 0.87. And the Z is 12.9. And then the rotation, as always, is going to be -90. And that looks pretty good right there. As far as this hand, remember we're just focusing these fingers. Like that. Grenade launcher. Add preview asset, grenade. Oh no, not there. Grenade launcher. Okay. All kinds of clicking. X is -0.42. Y is 1.46. Z is 10. And then -90. So there you go. It's a nice looking grenade launcher in there. Finally, we got our rocket. Like that. And then... so for the rocket, we have X of -0.72, Y of -2.36, Z of 13, and then -90. So if you want, you can fiddle with it. These numbers work. I did it by hand, and I'm just telling you what the numbers ended up being. But that should all work, and then you can just remove this asset and get out of our skeleton. Now, if you go into our character and go into the player animation blueprint in the event graph, we are going to want to do something out of our other sequence node. Finally, I know. So let's do that now. Dun, 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 dun. So if you remember, well, let's actually first pull out a branch. If you remember, we created a reference to our player, and we have a loadout. And so we want to get that variable in here. So let's check if it equals something. If this equals has weapon, plug that in there. I'm just trying to like make sure this not looks super ridiculous. Oh gosh. Okay, Can probably reroute this a little bit. There we go. That didn't look bad. Okay, so we only want animations to play if we have a weapon. We don't want our hands just facing outward like this if we don't have a weapon. So if we do have a weapon, let's go ahead and create a new variable, and we'll call this current weapon. And we're going to make this of type loadout. All right, we're going to set this to be something. So this is equal to the current weapon in this blueprint is equal to loadout in this blueprint. But we want these two blueprints to be able to talk to each other, and make current weapon in this blueprint equal the same thing as loadout in this one. So let's go to player. Let's get our loadout. And then let's also, actually, I'm sorry. I did it backwards. Instead of making it loadout, make it weapon type. I apologize about that. Yeah, change variable type. It'll be like, I don't know what to do. It's fine. Okay, so let's go to player and let's get the current weapon. So we're going to get the current weapons type. And then we're going to get weapon type. Get weapon type and then set that. So let's highlight this and say links current weapon in weapon base with anim blueprint. So what this is doing here, and you'll see why we're doing this in a second, we are taking this variable in our weapon base, the weapon type. And if you remember, in all of the children, we set that to be something. And essentially what we're doing is we're saying whatever the current weapon is, whatever the current weapon's weapon type is, so pistol, assault rifle, we want to set that to be equal to the variable found within this animation blueprint. Okay. Now, if we go back to the animation graph, we're going to unlink this player movement because we want to do some crazy funky things. So we're going to drag it here and we're going to say cache. We're going to cache this pose and we will call it the same name, player movement. What caching poses does essentially is it takes all this data and then puts it into a new name. So like if you notice, like these only go in one direction, here or here. They're not like nodes that have outputs and inputs on both sides. So now what I can do is I can call upon use cache pose player movement, and I can sort of continue on the branch to do that, save that as a cache pose, and then plug that into something else. So that's what we're going to be doing. So let's highlight on this and say state machine in state machine controlling player's movement. So this is like our first step, so to speak. But we want to make changes to these animations based off of different weapons. So admittedly, this will be a little bit confusing. But if we hold our weapons, like I said, these animations don't perfectly line up. So we will need to make some modifications to some of our bones and sockets in our skeleton. We're gonna have to move these around to make it look like our guy's actually holding the weapons, because they're all of different sizes and we don't have our own animations. So let's take this cache pose player movement and let's right click in some open space and say transform modify bone right here. Let's plug these in. You're going to get a sort of little conversion node like this. Okay. This first one is going to be for the pistol. I want to grab 2 of these and plug them into each other. And then I want to drag out of here and I want to cache. Oh, component to local. Okay, sure game. And now we can cache. And then we will save this as pistol pose. Okay. For the bone to modify, we want to get the left shoulder bone. B, left shoulder. And we want to translate this. So this little exposes pin, let's uncheck that and uncheck that. We only want to do translation. We're not rotating or changing the scale of anything. Instead of ignore, let's add to existing. And we want to make X -2, Y -34, and Z -10. Like that. And then the other thing that we want to do is we want to also screw with the right shoulder, because if you remember, the right shoulder is a little screwed up too, as you will see. We want to rotate this, so let's unexpose the translation and unexpose the scale. We don't want to use those, we just want the rotation. The rotation, we're going to add to existing, and then we're going to set this to be -10 in the X. Like that. Let's highlight this whole thing and we'll say translating animation for pistol, because we are low budget. We don't got a bunch of fancy animations we could just plug in for all of our weapons. We have to translate the bones by hand to make them actually look like they do something. Alrighty, so we could actually probably copy and paste this. And we'll translate pistol for auto rifle, because we still have no animations. Okay, instead of pistol pose, let's make it auto rifle pose. Okay, capitalize. What? Oh, it's really doing it to me, huh? Okay, thank goodness. All right, we have a couple of different ones. We have the left shoulder that we want to be -2 and 0 and Z3. And that's actually the only thing that we want to translate here when it comes to our auto rifle. Just a little bit of shoulder movement there to move it down and over a little bit. Let's copy and paste again. And we'll do this for our shotgun. Actually, because we need 2 of them, so let's copy paste this one instead, the pistol. And let's do the shotgun. And I'll stop making jokes. Okay, right here for cache name, shotgun pose. Left shoulder for the shotgun is going to be -2, Y of 0, and Z of 3. And then the other bone that we want is we want to start messing with the index. So we want right hand index 1. So like if you noticed before how like the index finger overlapped the trigger a little bit, that's what we're fixing here. So we want to take the translation, or sorry, no, the rotation. We just want to make this Z of 20, and then these other ones. So 0, 0, 20. And then same thing for the sniper rifle. The left shoulder for the sniper rifle is going to be -1, and then -2 in the Y, and then 7 for the left shoulder. And then this is going to stay the same because the finger is still screwed up the same way. Oh, I forgot to change this to sniper rifle pose. Like that. And then for, we're now at our grenade launcher. Grenade launcher pose. Okay, for the grenade launcher, we want 0, 0, and I mean, the only good thing is that the same sort of sockets, the left shoulder and the index, are the ones that we have to change, so we don't have to really change like a lot of this other stuff. But yeah, it is pretty tedious, nevertheless. And then, last but not least, rocket launcher. Rocket launcher pose. And then for the rocket launcher, translation is going to be negative 0.5 in the X, Y is 0, and then Z is 5. And then that is all of that. So we have all of these blended poses here. You can pause if you get a little bit lost. You need to see the numbers again. And then what we're going to do is one last thing before we get this all up and working. So we want to grab our current weapon and we want to blend poses. Oops, that's not the right one. Oh gosh, we want to blend poses by this enumeration. Where is it? Blend poses by weapon type. Yeah, okay, this is correct. Okay, we want to blend poses by weapon type, and then we want to add pins for all of these elements here, which is all of our weapons here. Boom. And then, which is pretty cool, we can just grab, so for our default pose, let's just use player movement. For our pistol, we want to use the pistol pose, just this, and then the auto rifle pose, and then the shotgun pose, and then the sniper rifle cached pose, and then the grenade launcher pose, and then the rocket launcher pose. Okay, and so if we do this, it still won't work because we're not actually outputting anything. So what we can do is, let's go ahead and just cache this again and call this weapon pose. And now let's grab a weapon pose. Oh my gosh, game. Work with me. Sometimes the it hates like using cached poses sometimes. You gotta like really search for that sucker. So now you can see that's updating and we're in pistol pose because I guess it must just be pistol by default. Oh yeah, our default value of that enumeration is pistol. So you can see it's actually flowing through, it's running through here. If I were going to weapon base, watch this, be like magic. If I change it to the auto rifle. Oh, come on. Okay, it doesn't want to update. That's awkward. Well, in spirit, it worked. Oh wait. There you go. So you can see how his hands are actually moving. See his finger, how that moved a little bit? Watch that. Grenade. So we got the pistol pose right there. We're translating these bones. Taking the auto rifle, the shotgun, the sniper, the grenade, the rocket launcher, and all of that. And so that value of current weapon is going to be linked up to whichever weapon that we have equipped in the game. And so what's happening in that anim graph is that we're controlling our idle run, we're caching that into here, then we're taking that data and we're transforming some of the locations of this based on whatever weapon that we have set by this enumeration, and that's being outputted out to the screen. So if we did have actual animations, we would just take like rifle run and then just drag that in there, but making this whole step unnecessary. But like I said, we don't have animations, so this is the way that we have to do it. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention that is pretty important is that inside of our BP player, when we are attaching the actors to components, instead of the default, which is keep relative and weld simulated bodies, we want to make sure that these are all set to snap to target, and we want to uncheck weld simulated bodies. So let's go ahead and do that. That's just a small setting that's going to cause a bit of an issue within our script and essentially cause it not to work, which is not good. No bueno. Let's do that. And then if we go here and turn around, we have our pistol for assault rifle, which I think there's an issue with that animation. Shotgun looks good. Sniper rifle looks good. Grenade launcher looks good. And the rocket looks good. We can switch between these now. See that the current mesh is disappearing. The new one is appearing. And the animation is working properly. See the hands moving around to where the guns are. You can actually see that pretty well, especially like that to something like that. So that is all working well and good. Let's go ahead and fix the assault rifle and then we will be done with this video. So as a little tidbit, just as a cool little tip, if you want to actually see what's incorrect here, you can hit the semicolon button on your computer to the right of L. You can enter what's known as the debug cam, and we can detach from our player, and we can see that we have an issue with our left shoulder. So our right arm is in the correct location, but our left arm is way too far back, and it's just not doing that great. So got to fix that. So awkwardly enough, I found out that you probably might not have even had this problem, because if I go into my auto rifle weapon, I have it set to be a pistol. So it's doing the pistol animation. If you ever want to preview these assets, you can always just switch this in here. And then you can see, like if I were to do something crazy like 40, you can see that happen in real time. See the hand move up like that, which is kind of cool, like that. If I hit compile, it'll go back to its default value, and then it'll be done. So if I hit play, this might have just been a me problem. There we go. Now our auto rifle is the one being held, and that is also in slot 1. So we can pick these up in whatever order that we want. So slot 1 was the assault rifle, pistol, shotgun, grenade. Ooh, not the sniper. There we go. So there's no functionality. We can't actually do anything, but it all works. We are holding our weapons and we can pick them up, and it's looking all nice and good. So we are making some great progress here. I hope you are enjoying the class so far, and I hope to see you in the next one.